Now, to illustrate the kind of experience students have working with us, I'm pleased to introduce Sachi Arakawa. Why don't you come up to the stage, Sachi? Sachi is a graduate student in PSU's Master of Urban and Regional Planning with an emphasis on environmental planning and community development. She's also a graduate assistant at PSU's Institute for Metropolitan Studies and a very talented person, as you were about to see. Thank you, Sachi.
Hi, I'm Sachi. I am a student here at PSU. I'm studying environmental planning. And in my program, we talk a lot about environmental justice. And last year, I started thinking about something kind of specific. I was thinking about how things like identity and power and agency can actually inform how marginalized communities view trees and green space in their neighborhoods. And so it was something that I had kind of been exploring here in Portland, but I felt like to really get at the heart of the issue, I had to go to other cities in the US and see how this was happening on the ground there. And so I wanted to design a research project for myself to explore this topic. But in order to do that, I had to travel. And as a starving student, I can barely afford to travel across the city to get to campus every day without financial help. But as Robert mentioned, I am a ISS student fellow, and so I found out that through the Student Fellows program, you can actually get funding to do these types of research trips. So I applied, and there was a whole process where I had to show them my research design and talk about my project. But I was ultimately accepted, and I got funding, so I was able to go on this great research trip. And I actually rode the train. I rode Amtrak all the way from Portland through the Rocky Mountains and Montana to the Midwest and ultimately to the East Coast. And I visited 5 different cities and did interviews and research in all these cities. So it was really cool. It was really eye-opening. And to be honest, I could probably talk about it for the next hour, but we do have other speakers. So I will just direct you to my blog that I kept if you're interested in finding out more about the trip that I went on. I have some photos on there. I have some of my interviews that I conducted and just some information about my research. So that's trainsandtrees.wordpress.com. But let's bring it back to Portland, back to PSU. I'm just curious, how many of you all are new transplants to Portland within the last couple years? Anyone? Don't be shy. People are like, cool. Well, welcome. I've been here over 10 years, but I suspect that maybe what brought me to Portland is also what drew you to this city, which is the city's focus on sustainability. And that's also something that brought me to my program at Portland State and what continues to inspire me here on campus. But of course, let's just get real for a second. Let's talk about the term sustainability, right? Like, it's kind of become overused, maybe even misused in a lot of ways. Some people might say greenwashed. And I would agree with that critique in a lot of ways. But I think that Portland State and the Institute for Sustainability have really continued to exemplify kind of the original principles of sustainability. And for those of you who aren't super familiar with sustainability theory, when we talk about sustainability, we often talk about these 3 pillars, right? So this is social health, environmental health, and economic health. And the work that the Institute for Sustainability does kind of exists or touches on a lot of these, or all 3 of these pillars, and kind of exists at the confluence or the overlap in the Venn diagram, if you will, of these 3 things. And so that was why I was really interested in working with them when I came to PSU last year. And so I had been looking through the Student Fellows program at internships with the Institute, and I found a great program that I felt like embodied all 3 of these pillars of sustainability. And the project that I ended up working on is called the Small Backyard Homes Initiative. And the Small Backyard Homes Initiative's goal is to make it easier and more affordable for people to build an accessory dwelling unit on their property. Okay, what does that have to do with sustainability? Well, I'll tell you, but I will first just define what accessory dwelling unit means for those of you who don't know. So an accessory dwelling unit is a small self-contained home that's built on the same property as an existing single-family home. So this could be anything from like a basement conversion, so a basement that's been built into a separate living quarter, an attic conversion, or even a detached unit, so basically a small house in the backyard of an existing home. And this type of housing has actually been increasingly seen as beneficial to cities. In fact, in the city of Portland, as part of our climate action plan, we made one of our goals to increase ADU development in the city. And so because of this, or the reason why people want to increase ADU development is because they have a whole variety of benefits. Everything from the potential to increase affordable housing options in neighborhoods that have become too expensive, to, let's see, what else? Creating extra income for working class homeowners in Portland if they want to rent out their unit, or helping elderly folks and retirees to age in place, so to stay in their home as they get older. But perhaps most related to the environmental sustainability piece is that accessory dwelling units are considered much more resource efficient than a normal traditional single-family home. So they take less materials to build, they often use less energy because they're smaller, so they're considered more environmentally friendly as well. And so because of this, our project at ISS wants to make financing, permitting, and building accessory dwelling units more accessible for Portland homeowners. And so for my part, I crunch numbers and I make maps using GIS. And these are some of the maps that I made within the last year. I've done everything from site suitability analyses to looking at market force variables and their potential impact on ADU development in the city. And I've gotten to share my work with a whole variety of stakeholders from both public and private sectors, including City Commissioner Chloe Daly's office and the Portland Housing Bureau. So it's been really cool to meet all these people outside of school, outside of campus. And I guess while I'm taking the time to brag, I might as well also mention that our project was in the paper not once but twice last year. So it was a really cool way for me to kind of share my work and have it seen by the outside world. So my experience at ISS, has taken me across the country on a research trip, but it's also really helped to develop my professional skills here at home. And I think, as Robert mentioned, this kind of experiential learning model that the Institute for Sustainability has is really valuable for students, and it not only benefits us at PSU as a university, but also really has benefits for the whole community and for Portland as a whole. And sustainability is what brought me to this school and to my program, and what continues to really drive me to do my work here. So I encourage all of you who are interested in sustainability to look into the ISS Student Fellows Program and to engage with some of the great speakers who are going to talk about their sustainability work that they're doing here at PSU. So thank you.